helped bring these threats to public safety to justice.
Police forces in southern Ontario have teamed up to tackle a slew of bank robberies across the province. Good afternoon. Millions of dollars have been stolen.
And a Joint Forces news conference has just outlined how police were able to track down the robbers. CTV's Mike Walker is covering this story and joins us live with more details. Mike.
Well, Nathan, Michelle, the OPP just announcing they have arrested 4 suspects wanted in connection with a spree of bank robberies across the province over a 2-year period that resulted in millions being stolen. Now take a look at this. This is surveillance video the OPP have released of the suspects robbing the banks across the province. In total, 8 banks were robbed between December 2022 and March 16th of this year. Police say the robberies happened just before the banks closed and occurred in parts of the GTA, including banks in Pickering and Newmarket, as well as Niagara Falls, southwestern Ontario, and in Renfrew County. Investigators say in total more than $2 million was stolen. This investigation involved the OPP as well as police forces in Barrie, Belleville, Niagara Falls, York, and Durham regions. The suspects are facing a combined 53 charges. The OPP say they have not yet recovered the stolen money. Here's more from investigators.
The similarities amongst these robberies were clear. Each involved 2 to 3 individuals entering bank before close. The occupants were controlled through the use of firearms to threaten and intimidate.
Investigators say none of the victims were injured, but were traumatized. The OPP add they were able to prevent a 9th bank robbery in northern Ontario in June. That's where officers arrested 3 of the suspects. Now, 1 suspect still remains at large. Reporting live with Mike Walker. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. And still to come on CTV News at noon, it's deadline day for the Trudeau Liberals to meet demands by the Bloc Québécois or face an active attempt to topple the government. We'll have the very latest from Parliament Hill.
And we'll have more news in a moment, but first, here's a live look at the city this afternoon. Still getting wet weather, cloudy, but things are going to clear up and temperatures are going to rise once again above seasonal. Jessica Smith is here with a look at the current condition. A slippery start if you're driving this morning.
It is. It started kind of in the tail end of the commute for a lot of people just after 9 a.m. But we're seeing this carry us right through the lunch hour. So keep that in mind. It will kind of leave a little bit of slickness on the roads once it's gone. It is a pretty small system, though, and it will move relatively quickly. And by the midpoint of our afternoon, a lot of this rain is out of the area, and we will see just a little sunshine before the sun sets this evening. We're warmer into that southwestern corner the further east you go, with the exception of Kingston. A little cooler still in those single digits. But as Nathan mentioned, we are beginning today a bit of a warming trend. Right now, we're at 11 apiece through the islands and through Pearson. Winds are fairly moderate right now. And as we head into that second half of our day and into the middle of the week, the heat is on and the sunshine returns. Coming up, your full forecast. Right now, back over to Michelle and Nathan.
Thank you, Jess. Toronto Police Chief Myron Demkew says Toronto Police will be out in force as Toronto welcomes Taylor Swift.
The chief made the comments during an appearance this morning on News Talk 1010 with more in the morning.
I don't think we can not consider that Taylor Swift concert draws an extraordinary amount of attention in people that is going to be uniquely different, and I think most anything we've experienced in our city. It is over a course of a number of days. It is drawing huge amounts of crowds, worldwide attention. I also think we have to acknowledge that, you know, the Taylor Swift concert has seen, you know, we've learned from the experiences that tour has had in other parts of the world, and we are making sure that we respond accordingly.
The Eras Tour comes to Toronto for 6 concerts beginning November 14th. A security threat forced the cancellation of stops in Vienna in August. Chief Demkew says the Toronto Police posture and presence will be appropriate to the scale of the event.
Welcome to the Eras Tour.
The TTC, meantime, says it will be increasing service and staffing as well as enhancing security from November 14th to the 16th and again from November 21st to the 23rd.
Another major event will be the FIFA Men's World Cup games being played in Toronto in 2026.
And there's a proposal to boost the hotel tax to help pay for the cost of hosting the soccer match. CTV's Natalie Johnson reports.
For years, the price tag on hosting the World Cup in Toronto crept up, and the question has been how the city would foot the bigger bill. Now, the staff charged with overseeing those costs are suggesting a hotel tax hike could help bridge the gap.
It's important because we do not want to put the dollar amount onto the property tax, because property taxpayer should not be shouldering all the cost.
Toronto's municipal accommodation tax is currently 6% on hotels and short-term rentals, hiking it to 8.5% between June 1st, 2025 and July 31st, 2026 would bring in an additional $57 million toward Toronto's share of World Cup costs. It comes as the city searches for an outstanding $95 million toward the municipal portion of the bill, which is nearly half of the $380 million total cost.
I don't believe fundamentally that the answer to every problem is more taxes, more fees. That's the default position here at City Hall.
The hotel industry pushing back on the plan, calling the proposed hike unfair and unfortunate.
We're talking about attracting large citywide events to the city. So if we're continuing to increase taxes, we're putting Toronto in an uncompetitive place against other cities that we compete with.
The hotel tax hike would not come into effect until well after the Taylor Swift tour has left town. City staff say they will continue to explore other revenue sources, including donations, merchandise sales, music royalties, and commercial sales opportunities related to FIFA. Natalie Johnson, CTV News.
Premier Doug Ford says he wants to put tax dollars back in your wallet.
The comments came today as the Premier officially announced rebates are going to be sent out by the Ford government. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris has the details.
It's official now. As part of tomorrow's full economic statement, there are plans for $200 checks to help with the cost of living.
We're going to give it back to every single person in Ontario, and if they have a child, they're getting an additional $200 because life's too expensive right now.
The checks arriving in the mail early in the new year as Progressive Conservatives organize for a potential early election call.
That's money that families can use to pay off their credit card after the holidays, to buy a winter coat for their kids, or to cover the cost of gassing up the family car to make up for the cost of the Liberal carbon tax.
The Premier defends sending checks to all Ontarians, whether they actually need a hand or not.
Because they're taxpayers. These are tax dollars going back to the taxpayers.
It's something Doug Ford says the government has the wiggle room to do because of higher sales tax revenues with inflation and federal changes to the capital gains tax.
People need long-term relief. Middle-class families need tax relief. This is a government that has been promising a tax cut for 6 years.
The finance minister's explanation:
you don't have to file a tax return. It's not down the road. It's going to get in your pockets really quick. That's how this government is helping people today, because they need the help today.
These $200 payments come on top of a just-announced extension of the cut to fuel and gas taxes in Ontario, now not due to expire until the end of June 2025 in a potential election season. Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
This could be a consequential day on Parliament Hill as the Liberals face another potential threat to their hold on power.
The Bloc Québécois declared today it is beginning talks with other opposition parties to bring down the government. This move comes after today's deadline passed without the minority government adopting 2 Bloc private members' bills.
If they give you what you ask for, even if it's after this date, does that mean they regain your support?
Let's say that if they give us exactly all we have asked for before they fall, because if there's a vote tomorrow, they might fall tomorrow, we will look into it and we will be coherent with all what we have said so far. We want precisely what is in Bill 3, C319 and in Bill C282. Bring that to us and we'll discuss. But in the meantime, they are seriously in danger to fall.
One of the Bloc bills would raise old age security payments for seniors under 75. The other focuses on safeguarding supply management in trade negotiations. Blanchette said today there are currently no negotiations happening with the government. The Liberals have survived 2 non-confidence votes so far during the fall session of Parliament.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has made a bold new promise to Canadians should he become the next prime minister.
Poilievre has pledged to eliminate the GST on new homes sold for less than $1 million. CTV's Mike Lecouteur has the details.
The Conservative slogan on carbon pricing is the newest policy plank to promote home building. Pierre Poilievre says if he's elected, he'll forego the 5% federal sales tax on new homes that are under $1 million.
This will save about $40,000 on a new home of $800,000.
Polyev says it'll help build 30,000 homes per year, something developers welcome.
Things are too expensive what people can afford, and anywhere government policy can help in reducing the cost to the new homeowner will help stimulate housing.
Polyev believes cutting the GST will save Canadians $8 billion over several years. To make up the lost revenue, he wants to cut a number of Liberal programs.
The Accelerator Fund has $3 billion left in it. It has been a disastrous program.
Polyev would also get rid of the Canada Housing Infrastructure Fund, which is meant to help municipalities build and upgrade things like water and sewer pipes for communities. Housing economist Mike Moffat applauds the tax cut, but he doesn't want to see housing programs eliminated just to pay for that rebate.
During any kind of crisis, you need as many tools as possible in your toolbox. So I do think it's unfortunate that they're financing this by getting rid of some useful programs.
The Liberal housing minister admits part of Polyev's plan makes sense, but Sean Fraser warns the cuts would hurt municipalities.
I can't help but think there's Conservative members of Parliament who are now campaigning on a commitment to take tens of millions of dollars away from their communities, presumably raising property taxes on their constituents to pay for it.
Polyev suggests he would push provinces to remove their sales tax on new home sales, but that would take some negotiation and would only happen if he's elected Prime Minister. Mike Lecouteur, CTV News, Ottawa.
The U.S. presidential campaign is just a week away, and what happens in the coming days will be pivotal in deciding the winner. Donald Trump spoke to supporters at a rally in Atlanta last night. He took time to respond after former First Lady Michelle Obama took jabs at him over the weekend. She referred to his, quote, obvious mental decline while campaigning for Kamala Harris.
With your support on November 5th, you know what's nasty to me? Michelle Obama. She was, ooh. I always tried to be so nice and respectful. Oh, she opened up a little bit of a box. She opened up a little bit of something. Oh, she was nasty. Ooh.
Vice President Kamala Harris was joined by running mate Tim Walz at a rally in Michigan last night. That rally was interrupted by more than a dozen pro-Palestinian protesters.
In Saskatchewan, Premier Scott Moe and the Saskatchewan Party have won a fifth consecutive majority government.
This was a much closer election than what we have seen in quite some time in this province. Just over roughly half of the voters voted for the Saskatchewan Party, and there's another half of the voters that voted for someone else. And I would say this, that I've heard the message that was delivered here this evening.
The party lost to the NDP in big cities, but maintained their stronghold in rural areas. The New Democrats took all the seats in Regina and all but 2 in Saskatoon, and nearly double the number of seats they held in the Saskatchewan legislature.
The counting is finally official in British Columbia. More than a week since voters went to the polls, we now know the BC NDP will stay on to govern the province. With the final count completed, Elections BC has declared the NDP has been elected in 47 ridings for a razor-thin win. The Conservatives took 44 seats, while the Greens have 2. But 2 ridings are still close enough to force automatic judicial recounts, which could ultimately decide whether David Eby's NDP leads a majority or minority government.
BC Conservative leader John Rustad says he accepts the results of the election and that he's immensely proud the party went from 0 to 44 seats in just a year. Rustad adds that he's ready to begin leading BC's official opposition. At Queen's Park, the daughter of a Toronto woman killed in the October 7th attack on Israel called for action today in securing the release of her body.
Judy Weinstein Haggai and Gadi Haggai were murdered in a kibbutz, and their bodies are still being held by Hamas as hostages.
While the United States and other allies have issued indictments against the perpetrators of October 7th attacks, Canada has yet to take similar action. Why is there no formal pursuit of justice for my mother and the other Canadians affected by this atrocity? 8 Canadians were murdered that day. This is more than a humanitarian issue. It is a matter of national responsibility. If Canada remains silent, we risk conveying to the world that a Canadian citizen's rights can be disregarded, that terrorism can operate unchecked.
Judy Weinstein-Haggai was raised in Toronto and is the sole Canadian whose body remains in Hamas captivity. Her daughter urged Ontario MPPs today to call for the release of the remains. Iris traveled from her home overseas to make the appeal. There was also an official commemoration in the legislature. In Jerusalem, hundreds of Israelis have marched calling for the release of hostages. About 100 hostages remain in Gaza, around a third of whom are thought to be dead.
Meantime, Israel's parliament has banned a UN aid agency which could affect the impact of its work in Gaza. 2 bills passed yesterday to restrict UNRWA from conducting any activities inside Israel. Some lawmakers have called for the group to be disbanded after the UN said 9 staff members from the agency were involved in the October 7th attacks. The agency's chief says this move will only deepen the suffering of Palestinians.
In other world news, NATO has confirmed North Korean troops have been sent to Russia to help in its war against Ukraine.
NATO calls on Russia and the DPRK to cease these actions immediately.
NATO Secretary General said this marks a dangerous expansion of Russia's war. The Pentagon says North Korea has sent 10,000 troops to train in Russia, and they're expected to fight within the next several weeks. And a new report from the United Nations is showing greenhouse gases hitting record highs last year. One of the biggest contributors of that spike was the wildfires in our country. And CTV's Scott Hurst joins us now with more on the findings. So, Scott, what is the UN's dire warning about greenhouse gases?
Nathan, ultimately the warning is the world and world leaders, for that matter, are falling behind their climate targets as new numbers show greenhouse gas concentrations have surged to a new record in 2023. That's according to a new report from the UN Climate Agency, the World Meteorological Organization. The UN Climate Agency says carbon dioxide is accumulating in the atmosphere faster than ever, and the result will lock in temperature increases for many years to come. The CO2 level has risen by more than 10% in 20 years, according to the report, pointing to high emissions from human activities helping drive CO2 increases in 2023. The UN Climate Group is warning these are more than just numbers and statistics on a page. They result in serious impacts to our lives and our planet, notably increasing the severity, as we've been seeing, of extreme weather events around the world, Nathan.
Why is Canada considered a major contributor?
Canada is being singled out in this report specifically because of wildfires. Greenhouse gas producing events include the El Nino weather pattern, which fuels drier conditions and wildfires, and that's why Canada is being singled out here. Senior climate officials with the UN agency are describing last year's wildfires in Canada. This is 2023, not the devastating ones that we saw just in the past couple months, as dramatic in terms of the amount of greenhouse gases produced. Ultimately meaning more CO2 could stay in the atmosphere and accelerate global warming. Now, the warning is world leaders in the world falling behind their targets. Now, this latest report comes ahead of a global gathering on climate change, the UN Climate Conference, which is COP29. And Nathan, that is being held in Baku, Azerbaijan next month.
All right, CTV's Scott Hurst in the CTV newsroom. Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan.
A man convicted of killing a Toronto cop 30 years ago is seeking parole today.
Clinton Gale is appearing before a parole board in British Columbia. Gale was convicted of the first-degree murder of Constable Todd Bayless and the attempted murder of Constable Mike Leone on June 17, 1994. The officers were shot while attempting to arrest a suspect who was wanted for drug trafficking. Police say Gale was carrying a large amount of crack cocaine and a loaded gun. This is the second time Gale is up for parole. He was denied in 2019, but in 2021, he was granted a 4-hour escorted temporary absence pass.
A daytime shooting at a North York underground parking garage is now a homicide investigation. Police say a man shot in the underground parkade near Yonge and Sheppard on Thursday passed away in hospital on Saturday. The victim has been identified as 31-year-old Devin Brumble. Police are asking anyone with information about the shooting to come forward.
Some Durham residents will receive a phone call today as the nuclear public alerting system is tested. The alert is designed to make residents aware of the unlikely event of an incident at the Pickering or Clarington nuclear generating stations. An auto dialer is calling listed landline numbers within 10 kilometers of the stations. Tomorrow, outdoor sirens will sound for 1 minute within 3 kilometers of the sites.
We have a slightly unsettled start to our day, but the good news is it gets relatively warm. We're looking at a change in wind direction that will help begin a warming trend as we wrap up the month of October this week. Right now, we're looking at some unsettled weather, rain with the risk of thunderstorms. So that clears out relatively quickly, and we will sit at 17 without all this rain as we head into the afternoon. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast, including keeping a close eye on that Halloween trick-or-treating forecast. All those details after the break.
A whole bunch of rain today, but I think relatively speaking, we've been talking about how we haven't gotten that much, so it's not the end of the world, and especially if we don't get too much on Halloween. I don't know, like, as a kid, if it rained, did it ruin your Halloween, or were you a kid who just didn't care, you'd stay out no matter how long?
I'd say nothing ruined Halloween, because it's the greatest thing for a kid. You just go out and you just get as much candy as you can. I didn't like the snow, because back in the day, oftentimes it was snow on Halloween, but that seems to have ended.
The snowsuit underneath the costume was never a vibe.
Oh, how about a raincoat underneath the costume? My mom had this great idea one year. Just put the raincoat on your bare skin and then put the costume. It was the most uncomfortable Halloween ever.
It was just a unique spin on whatever character you were trying to be. The Halloween forecast obviously important because people are taking their kiddos out, whether you're going out earlier or later. We are still watching for the chance of showers, but the bulk of it comes into the later part of the evening. So if you're in kind of that window between 5 and maybe 7, we are watching for the chance of showers, but it's mostly just overcast but mild. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm. Injury lawyers you don't pay unless they win. Now, not a terrible start to the day, a beautiful sunrise, but usually indicative of some active weather when we have these vibrant colors. It's just the sun passing through all those particles of light. It's kind of showing you that we are watching for the chance of some active weather, and that's what we have right now. As we kind of step into the later part of our afternoon, the bulk of the system will push its way out, and we do have a little bit of sunshine on the way before the sun sets this evening, just before 6:15. Now, we are looking at warmer weather today, thanks to a change in wind direction. We're sitting at 11 here in the city, already 21, though, through Windsor. And as we head into the afternoon, we are warming up significantly. Everybody in southern Ontario holding on to a decent amount of warmth. Now, throughout the day today, we will see that active weather kind of start to intensify. We're looking at it heavy at times right now across the GTA, but as we get into that midpoint of our afternoon, it pushes out, but we hold on to the warmth. So 17 for your daytime high today here in the city, 24 in London, Goderich 23. At Kingston, we're at 14. It is mild for pretty much everybody. As we make our way into the evening, we are not losing any of that. We'll sit at 16. We should be at 4. In some areas, we are 4 times the amount of the temperature that we should be. So it is really muggy as we head in towards our Tuesday evening. Everybody kind of in that low to mid-teen range. There's that line of showers, pretty defined, but it will make its way out relatively fast. And behind that, just a little bit of cloud before we enter into what is going to be a really beautiful day tomorrow. Wednesday, likely to be the sunniest and driest day start to finish throughout the week. We are in the thick of it right now. Heavier showers out towards Oshawa, Peterborough, and then as we head into that kind of, again, midpoint of our afternoon, we're just left with a little bit of cloud cover. The sun will make its way out briefly before the sun sets this evening, and then we have a beautiful, albeit muggy night ahead of us and sitting well above seasonal. Now, into your Wednesday, a few light clouds out there, but overall, we are looking at a very reminiscent of early summer day type of forecast as opposed to the end of October. We will be into the 20s, and we stay there for at least a couple of days as we round out the week. Into our Wednesday evening, it's not too bad. And then heading into Thursday, all eyes on that trick-or-treating forecast, right? We're looking at a beautiful start to the day, a decent amount of sunshine. Into the afternoon, a little bit of cloud cover. Now, as we head in towards around 5 to 6 o'clock, we are looking at spotty showers, but they're sitting kind of just south and west of us. So for a good portion of the GTA, again, if you're in that trick-or-treating window between about 5 to 7, There's a chance of maybe a light drizzle, but overall, it's just a decent amount of cloud cover. As we head through the overnight, that will push out, and then we really do have a beautiful start to a brand new month as we head in towards Friday. But we are well above seasonal for your day today, into your Wednesday, into your Thursday. And honestly, it's not really till Friday that we return to anywhere close to where we should be. Temperature-wise, again, we are sitting in the mid-20s as we head throughout our low to mid-20s through our Wednesday and Thursday. As we head in towards Thursday, again, it is a fantastic start to the day. The chance of showers, very spotty in nature, are into the second half of the day. The bulk of it is just going to be some cloud cover as we head in towards that trick-or-treating window, depending on the age of the kiddos in your life that are going to be participating. As we head in towards Friday, all that pushes out. We return to seasonal as we welcome in a brand new month. And looking ahead to the weekend, it gets a little cooler, especially into your Saturday, but there's some sunshine. We fall back on Sunday with a little bit of unsettled weather, and then we kind of hover around seasonal. So all in all, it's not too bad. Michelle, Nathan, I'll send things back to you.
Thank you, Jess. Well, one of our very own here at CTV News Toronto has received a special honor.
Pat Foran has been invested with the Order of Ontario.
Your Honor, Patrick Foran.
The special ceremony was held yesterday afternoon at the Royal Ontario Museum. Pat and 24 other Ontarians were honored by the province for their achievement in various fields that have benefited the province. Pat certainly fits that description. The province says he was chosen because, quote, he's had Ontario's back for 3 decades, dispensing financial and consumer advice. His relentless reporting on consumer fraud has helped thousands of people recover millions of dollars. This tireless advocate always gives back, determined to educate on financial matters. Now, Pat will be back with us tonight to talk about this special honor. I'm sure he can't wait. Congratulations, Pat, from all of us here at CTV News.
Congrats, Pat. Can't wait to chat about this a little later. Still to come, Shania Twain is looking forward to next year's Calgary Stampede. We'll have the details after this short break.
For the first time in a decade, Canadian country superstar Shania Twain will be performing in Calgary next summer during the 2025 Stampede.
Let's go, girls.
This will be her first appearance at the Stampede since 2014. Twain is the top-selling female country pop artist of all time, with 6 albums released and more than 100 million sold worldwide. She's also the first artist in history to release 3 consecutive Diamond-certified albums. Now, the Stampede takes place during the first 2 weeks of July next year, and tickets go on sale to the general public this Friday morning.
An emotional mid-performance moment between 2 superstars in the spotlight. Adele and Celine Dion shared a heartfelt embrace in a really sweet concert encounter. CTV's Geneviève Beauchemin has more.
What happened in Vegas had fans of 2 powerhouse vocalists talking. Adele interrupted her rendition of When We Were Young when she spotted the famous face of Quebec icon Celine Dion in the crowd. An emotional reunion starring legendary big voices of their generations sent fans reaching for tissues, and Adele asking the crowd to help her get through her song. When Dion was young, this was the dream come true. The Coliseum at Caesars Palace was built for her debut residency on the Vegas Strip in 2003.
It feels like home. I've been here 5 years. It's warm. It's a beautiful place to perform.
But in 2021, Dion had to cancel the last shows of her second residency and has rarely performed since she was diagnosed with stiff person syndrome, a rare neurological disorder. And this was the 46th weekend of Adele's Vegas show, one of her final performances before what she announced would be a, quote, incredibly long break. And so this moving reunion was what Adele called a full circle moment for her. 2 queens, said one fan, leaning on one another. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Montreal.
To the NBA, the Toronto Raptors were looking to get back into the win column, hosting the Denver Nuggets last night.
4 seconds, 2 seconds, Murray, point 3, we're tied. Overtime.
The Raptors were in front most of the game, but gave up a last-second bucket to force overtime, where the Nuggets took the lead and went on to win it 127-125. The Raptors will visit the Charlotte Hornets tomorrow.
And the Toronto Maple Leafs were looking to snap their 3-game losing streak last night, visiting the undefeated Winnipeg Jets.
47 career 2-assist games. Now, Riley, right in, he scores!
The Leafs jumped out to a 4-0 lead in the second period. The Jets closed the gap to 1 goal in the third, but the Leafs were able to hang on for the 6-4 win. The Buds are back on the ice Thursday, hosting the Seattle Kraken.
Many hockey fans look up to Leaf superstar Austin Matthews.
So much so that one young fan chose to dress like him, mustache and all, for Halloween this year, which has garnered lots of buzz on social media. Our Andrea Case has his story.
The list of Toronto Maple Leaf greats is forged in iron outside the Scotiabank Arena. And maybe one day, Austin Matthews will join the lineup. At least 70-year-old Grayson hopes so.
Let's go!
This superfan had one wish for Halloween: to dress as an Austin Matthews hockey card.
He's my favorite hockey player.
Why is he your favorite hockey player?
Because he's really good and he scored lots of goals.
You know what, the example that he had shown me was of Steph Curry from, I think, somewhere in California, and it was done so well. And I love a challenge. So I looked at it and I'm like, you know what? If it's been done, it can be done and be done better.
Is it heavy?
A little.
But you can handle it?
Yeah.
His dad, Grant Joseph, made the hockey card dream come true. While this costume is garnering a lot of attention on the street, he's not looking forward to wearing it on Halloween.
It would be kind of hard to get up the stairs and down.
Yeah, we posted it up and it didn't take long.
And I hope I can show Austin Matthews.
Oh, I'm sure he'll see it. It's going to be on the internet now. It literally flew. It was already doing well on Saturday night. Come Sunday when we woke up, we were just astonished at where the views were at. And then getting a message from the NHL was insane, and they wanted to grab the video and help push it as well, and which led to Austin Matthews actually posting it on his Instagram last night in his stories.
What did Austin Matthews do when he saw your post?
He put it on his Instagram story.
And he put fire?
Yeah.
Meaning, what does fire mean?
Like really good.
When Grayson and his dad, Grant, left Trenton this morning to do all of these interviews, they didn't know where they were staying, but the Chelsea Hotel came through for them. Let's see if at some point Austin Matthews comes through and does a meet and greet with Grayson and his dad. Andrea Case, CTV News.
The Los Angeles Dodgers are 1 win away from their second World Series in 5 years.
It is a fastball. It's ripped down the line. It is gone!
Freddie Freeman homered for the third straight game, and Walker Buehler pitched 5 scoreless innings as the Dodgers beat the New York Yankees 4-2. LA now has a commanding 3-0 lead in the Fall Classic. Game 4 is set for tonight in the Big Apple.
Still to come, we've got an inside look at what it takes to get groceries to stores in one major food chain as they bet big on efficiency.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
A window now into the world of a major grocer and its large investment into making the food supply chain more efficient.
CTV's Sean Leathong has more on how groceries get from the warehouse to your shopping cart.
If you've ever wondered how a large grocery chain gets food to stores, it looks like this. Maybe not all chains, as this is a new distribution center built by Metro to stock all 275 stores in Ontario.
We want this to get in and out the fastest possible, right? So it's all about freshness.
Yannick Blanchet is VP of Supply Chain, and he's walking us through their new 566,000 square foot fresh food distribution center in Etobicoke.
All dairy, deli, whatever we receive that goes in our automated system, we receive it from here.
Located next to the 427, this location opened last June, but just reached 100% capacity 2 weeks ago.
One by one, we transfer them on a roller conveyor.
It's an example of the state of grocery competition in Canada. According to the Competition Bureau of Canada, Canada's grocery industry is largely concentrated between giants like Metro, Loblaws, Sobeys, Costco, and Walmart, making competition among giants focused on efficiency. Inside, the temperature sits around 1 Celsius, feeling like a huge refrigerator, but speed is the name of the game. 55% of the work is automated.
Every day, At 8 o'clock in the morning, we receive all the orders from our 275 stores.
With 100-foot ceilings, automated cranes, and over 500 staff working to get as much food as they can out the door, moving many items same day so they are quickly on store shelves.
By the end of the day, they will all be empty, so the stock turns a lot.
Between this, another new distribution center nearby, and a third in Quebec, Metro spent nearly $1 billion to make getting food out the door more efficient.
We can store up to 150,000 cases.
And it represents a shift for this large retailer to centralize their operation and keep up with expected growth.
It's to respond to the demand.
Asked if this will lead to lower prices for consumers, Metro would only say they're focused on efficiency to respond best to customers. Sean Leithong, CTV News.
Investors in Google are impatient for some good news.
Andrew Bell of B&M Bloomberg has the latest in business.
Hello there. Here are your business headlines. Frustrated shareholders in Alphabet, the parent company of Google, have watched the stock drift lately, and they're hoping for strong results when the company reports this afternoon. The shares are up just 2% in the past 6 months. Even a positive quarterly report may be overshadowed by worries over action by regulators to curb the company's market power. And there are fears that Alphabet's dominant share in internet search is at risk from other players using artificial intelligence. Bitcoin topped $71,000 US for the first time since June. It's viewed by some as a bet on Donald Trump returning to the White House because he has embraced digital assets. And gold hit a new high above $2,766 US an ounce. Saxo Bank said Trump's return, quote, may bring greater policy disruption, trade tariffs, and increased geopolitical risks. And finally, Ford shares fell 8% after the company warned that earnings this year will be at the low end of its forecast as the carmaker struggles to bring down high warranty costs. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of B&N Bloomberg.
A group of healthcare workers is calling on the Ford government to reverse its decision to close supervised injection sites. They say decades of work in harm reduction and disease prevention are about to be undone.
Years ago, before supervised consumption sites opened, a colleague overdosed in a shelter bathroom. He was found too late and taken to the ICU, where he was determined brain dead. He had a calm and kind demeanor and a great sense of humor. The idea of him slowly dying in the bathroom of a busy shelter still makes me feel sick. So many people were nearby and able to save his life, but he was forced to be hidden away. Some of the supervised consumption services slated for closure are located in shelters. If these sites close, we will see more deaths like this.
The Ontario government, in other news, has passed legislation to end the practice of employees requiring a sick note for short-term illnesses.
Now there are calls for other provinces to follow suit to help remove what medical officials say is unnecessary pressure on the healthcare system. CTV's Heather Wright has the story.
A fever, the flu, a migraine. Short-term illnesses that often require a doctor's note just to stay home from work.
We want to make sure that our family doctors are available to Canadians to provide the care that Canadians need and Canadians deserve. And so if we can get rid of something that really has no medical benefit to anybody, but does add to the workload that family doctors are experiencing, that's a real win for all of us.
The Canadian Medical Association is calling for an end to sick note requirements for short-term minor illnesses, things like the common cold or gastroenteritis, calling them an unnecessary burden.
And it's something that I'm honestly sick of.
Dr. Mariam Zainadin is a family physician in West Vancouver. She says tasks like sick notes take time out of an already packed week.
We're so overburdened with administrative tasks that if we can just eliminate this one thing for our patients and for ourselves, it would really help us.
An estimated 6.5 million Canadians do not have a family doctor. And the CMA says physicians are spending millions of hours every year on tasks like sick notes. According to a survey, about 1/3 of working Canadians say they were asked for a sick note for a short-term illness at least once in the last year. And 82% of those surveyed said they would rather go to work sick then get a sick note.
We don't want people who are sick coming into our waiting rooms, spreading viruses. We don't want them going to work just because they can't get a sick note.
The CMA is calling for legislation to end sick note requirements. Ontario and Nova Scotia already have policies in place. In Nova Scotia, employers can only ask for a sick note for absences over 5 working days. The CMA estimates doing away with sick notes could prevent as many as 12.5 million unnecessary healthcare visits every year. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
Residents in the town of Arnprior are facing a large tax increase, all because of rising policing costs.
The OPP has the town's contract to serve and protect, and its bill to the municipality is going up. CTV's Josh Morano has the details.
Corinne Hobart has lived in Arnprior for over 15 years, and she will see her taxes jump 3.4% to pay for the cost of policing by the OPP.
We don't have a lot of crime, and I don't see the need in this particular town to increase the police presence.
Arnprior has used OPP services since 1985, and now it is costing Arnprior 21% more.
The sticker shock on this increased budget amount cannot be underestimated. It came completely out of the blue.
McGee adds the levy is before any other services the town may need, like water, garbage collection, and public works.
We're going to have some pretty deep conversations around the council table. This definitely won't be a spend year. It's going to be a year where we look at any efficiency and every efficiency that we possibly can.
OPP say the pay increase is necessary to cover pay raises, as well as a return to pre-pandemic levels of calls for service.
We are looking at increasing in some areas the number of officers that we have on the ground to make sure that we are providing that good, adequate coverage that our ratepayers and residents deserve.
Pembroke and Petawawa are also facing an increase in the cost of policing by the OPP. However, some in Arnprior feel it may not be needed.
Maybe in other cities, bigger cities, we're just not that big.
Been an extreme lack of presence on the decline since the pandemic, I would say, and it hasn't kind of rejuvenated since it ended.
There's good things and bad things, but if they could keep it to maybe 2% or something more reasonable.
And coming up, 2 Ontario twin brothers live their dream in the NFL, facing off against each other for the first time. Reaction from their family just ahead.
For football fans, Sunday's game between Philadelphia and Cincinnati may have been just like any other. But for one Ontario family, it was anything but.
For them, it was a dream come true as 2 brothers, identical twins, who are both playing in the NFL, faced off against each other for the first time ever. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth reports.
Identical twins, Sydney and Chase Brown, see football as an expression of brotherly love. Playing the game is a shared family experience.
These 2 youngsters grew up in London, Ontario.
On Sunday, the Brown brothers played on opposite sides. Sydney for the Philadelphia Eagles, Chase for the Cincinnati Bengals. It was the first time Canadian twin brothers played against each other in the NFL.
Definitely a special moment, not only for us, but our family and having everybody here in one stadium.
Including their mother, Rachel, who watched Chase score a touchdown.
I am most proud of the people that they are. They're living their dreams. They're successful. What else do you want for your kids?
Sydney Brown says Sunday's game was the realization of a lifelong dream.
This is something that me and my brother have been talking about since we were kids. So to kind of share that moment with him on the field and go against him and obviously see him score a touchdown and stuff. It was awesome.
No shortage of attention and excitement because the Brown brothers were opponents this weekend, but we should also point out they've been teammates in the past, most recently in the NCAA in Illinois. Gavin Lake coached the Brown twins when they were teenagers and says they are role models, an example for other Canadian athletes to follow.
There's a path. Those guys work their butts off, and for them to succeed at this stage of the game, it's wonderful to see.
In the end, it was Sydney and the Eagles who came out on top in this battle of the Brown brothers, winning 37-17 over the Bengals. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
A massive hailstorm in Spain's southern regions has left its mark. Streets were flooded from an excess of rain, making it difficult for drivers to get through. And windows of vehicles were broken by hailstones the size of golf balls. Several regions were put under rainfall alerts today. Make us appreciate what we're getting here. Not nearly as bad.
Oh, look at that. Wow. Yeah, just regular old rain for us, and we'll be through with it soon enough.
Yeah, we head into the afternoon, and the bulk of it really is almost gone now. It will continue to push its way east, and we have a beautiful second half to our day. But extreme weather is something you always have to focus on. For us, luckily, it is not that intense anytime soon. And as we make our way in towards the middle of the week, it only gets warmer and sunnier, so something to look forward to. That line of showers, though, pretty well defined, but it will move its way out before the day is all said and done. We're holding on in the double digits here, but it's already 21 degrees through Windsor, and we are on our way up. If you're heading out, though, later on today for a walk, it does dry up and stays nice and mild, and we're looking ahead to Halloween, and right now still into the 20s throughout the day.
All right. Thank you, Jess. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and the whole team here, have a wonderful afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6.